You know, whether you love him or you hate him, there is just no denying that Elon Musk is one of the most recognizable and, polarizing figures of our time. He's a name that makes you think of rockets, electric cars, and a future that honestly feels like it's been ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie. But he's also a name that's at the center of constant, and I mean constant debate. So let's try to unpack the man behind the headlines.
Okay, let's just start with a number that is almost impossible to really wrap your head around. $684 billion. That's the net worth listed in our source material, a figure that makes him the wealthiest person on the entire planet. That number alone tells you something about the scale of his influence. But, of course, a number that big is never the whole story, is it? It's really the result of a long, pretty complex, and often turbulent journey. So the real question we're trying to get at here is, how did one person get to this point? How did he build this incredible empire and, in the process, become such a lightning rod for both admiration and, well, a whole lot of criticism?
To answer that, you really have to go back to the beginning. His story doesn't actually start in Silicon Valley, but way over in South Africa. He was born into a wealthy family, but his ambition eventually brought him to North America, and that's where his career as a serial entrepreneur would really, truly begin.
What's really wild here is just how fast it all happened. In 1995, he co-founds Zip2, a software company. Just 4 years later, he's already onto his next big thing, an online payment company called X.com. Now that company merges with another one, becomes PayPal, and when eBay buys PayPal in 2002, Musk walks away a multimillionaire. But this wasn't the end goal. No, this was just the beginning. This was the seed money, the capital that would end up funding his wildest dreams.
And those dreams were, well, they were big, to say the very least. So let's get into the two companies that really transformed him from just another tech millionaire into a global icon, revolutionizing not one, but two massive industries.
All right, first up, SpaceX. Now, their mission isn't just about launching a few satellites. No, it's about making humanity a multi-planetary species. I mean, just think about that for a second. The sheer audacity of that goal is what has always set SpaceX apart from everyone else. And you know what? It wasn't just talk. As the source material shows, SpaceX went on to achieve things that many people thought were downright impossible. They pioneered reusable rockets, which dramatically lowered the cost of getting to space. They became the leader in commercial spaceflight, flying astronauts to the space station for NASA. And they built Starlink, a giant constellation of satellites that's trying to bring internet to the entire globe. So at the exact same time he was aiming for Mars, he was also trying to completely change things right here on Earth. Tesla's mission was just as ambitious, to accelerate the world's transition away from fossil fuels. And the impact, it was undeniable. Tesla became the world's top electric car maker. But it was so much more than that. With things like the Powerwall, Tesla Energy pushed into energy storage for our homes. So the really crucial point here is this. Tesla didn't just build a successful car company. It basically forced the entire legacy auto industry to pivot and start chasing an electric future.
So if revolutionizing space travel and the global energy sector wasn't enough, Musk's ambitions then turned inward, to the human brain, and to the very nature of intelligence itself. Let's take a look at how this all builds into his next set of ventures.
This ambition led him down a few pretty incredible paths. With Neuralink, he's working on brain-computer interfaces, literally trying to connect our minds to machines. He also co-founded OpenAI to advance AI research, but he later left over some disagreements. And that led him to found a competitor, xAI, specifically to challenge the existing AI landscape. Okay, so this brings us to what is maybe the most complex and, let's be honest, the most controversial chapter of his career. After building these empires in technology, Musk turned his attention to the digital public square and the world of politics, and he started wielding his influence in a way that very few business leaders ever have. This quote from a tweet back in December 2022 kind of gives you a sense of his unfiltered approach. It happened during a big controversy where he suspended the accounts of several journalists. They were reporting on an account that tracked his private jet. Doxing, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, is publishing private information about somebody online. This whole moment really signaled a new, more combative relationship with the media and his own philosophy on speech. And that philosophy was soon put into practice on a global scale. In 2022, he acquired Twitter. A year later, it was rebranded as X. Now, the source material we're drawing from here notes that his policy changes, which were aimed at reducing censorship, were followed by a rise in hate speech and the spread of misinformation on the platform. This shift was happening at the same time as a pretty significant political evolution. The sources describe a really clear trajectory. He went from being a donor who gave to both Democrats and Republicans to publicly declaring he would vote Republican. This all culminated in him becoming the largest donor to Donald Trump's 2024 campaign, and even briefly serving in his administration in the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, before they had a very public falling out.
So, as you can imagine, this very public role has come with some intense scrutiny. The source material catalogs a whole bunch of controversies. He's been criticized for spreading misinformation, accused of promoting conspiracy theories, and even racist rhetoric. And these actions, they've drawn significant public backlash and have led to him being described by some as a supporter of global far-right figures.
So where does all of that leave us? I mean, we've seen the brilliant engineer, the ambitious entrepreneur, the tech visionary, and the political firebrand. It's a collection of identities that often seem to be in direct conflict with one another, which creates what we could probably call the Musk paradox. So, is he the genius inventor who's pushing humanity towards the stars, or is he the controversial figure shaping our public conversations through chaos? The thing is, the source material suggests he's all of these things at once. So the real question isn't which one is the real Elon Musk, but how history is ultimately going to balance all these different parts of his legacy.
You know, maybe the best summary of all this comes from this quote when Time magazine named him Person of the Year back in 2021. It just captures the sheer scale of his impact, for better or for worse. Few individuals have had a greater influence on life on Earth, and potentially life off it, than Musk. It's an influence that's just impossible to ignore, and one that we'll all be debating for years to come.